Hi everyone, welcome to my top 11 most anticipated games of 2017. And it's 11 because I feel like one of them is just a given from things that I've mentioned in the past, and I'm not sure how often I've mentioned it on the channel. Anyway, we'll get to it. I just thought I'd give 10 things that aren't that a chance. Anyway, let's start at number 11. And this one is Myth Dark Frontier. Now, I don't know what it is that makes me so excited about it. I've never played Myth. That might be partly, what draws me to it. I've never played Myth, and that's a dungeon crawly fantasy thing that's kind of... I think the draw of it's supposed to be that it's open-ended and sandboxy, and it just gives you a kind of framework to make your own things around. And I've never gotten around to it because... just the whole mixed feeling around some people completely hating the rules that came with the first edition, but I think the second edition improved it. I need to look into that more, but, once I've cleared some of this backlog out of the way, maybe I'll look back into Myth. But Myth Dark Frontier is set in the same world and probably has the same look and everything to it, but this is a cooperative action programming game where we are trying to save this city, and there'll be a picture of the city somewhere up here because it's a lovely, it's like a miniature. It's a lovely multi-part piece, and as the bad guys get to the city, they'll destroy pieces of it and things, and we need to try and protect it. But we have a certain number of actions that we can do every day, and they get put in 3 different time slots in the day, and what the enemies do will come in under these time slots as well. So then we'll play through the days and see what everybody does at different times, and you're going to have to really synchronize what's going on to try and fight off those bad guys. So it might be down to the fact that I still really want to play Myth. It might be down to the fact that it's got a beautiful city miniature, or just the cooperative and action programming. I'm just really looking forward to Myth Dark Frontier. Now, number 10 is Anachrony, and I've actually played this. I did a rough print and play, very rough with the prints that I've got, and it's a worker placement game where we have the opportunity to do some time travel, but it's done in a very interesting way. We can kind of, if we need resources or extra workers or things, we can request them from the future and have them right now. But they go on this time travel track, and in future rounds, we're going to have to send these things back to our past selves to, avoid a space-time continuum paradox. But that was a really interesting concept in it, and we're trying to build these labs and things. We've got these mechs that our workers need to be in so that they can, do their thing. And certain actions require a mech if they need to go out into the wasteland of the city. There was an expansion that I didn't play with where there are different conditions to end the game. I think looked like a really interesting game. And another thing that got added after I think the print and play that I did was solo play. So it's got options for that. So that will be really interesting if there's solo for it. But it's published by the same people. Is it Mind Clash that did Tricarion, which is always off camera because it's behind me, but beautiful, lavish production in Tricarion. It's a very heavy, very long Euro game, but aside from anything, the production just stands out as, it's just outstanding. That's why it stands out. But yeah, I imagine they'll be doing the same to Anachrony. It's got these beautiful minis that I think were an extra, and you can kind of slot your workers into there, or you can just have the basic cardboard ones that you put your worker on top of. It looks really, really interesting. That's Anachrony. Number 9 is First Martians Adventures on the Red Planet. And this is built off of Robinson Crusoe, a previous cooperative game from Portal, which has just had a big reproduction. But this time it's set on Mars. I imagine it's going to have a lot more differences than that. But also, it's going to be driven by an app which is going to give you scenarios to play through, just like in Robinson Crusoe. The aim in that was to try and survive the incredibly harsh conditions on the island and try and fulfill certain criteria based on the scenario you were playing. Well, now an app is going to tell you about those scenarios and help you with the setup and things, but also it's going to have a certain number of campaign options where I imagine that games will link onto the next ones. Really, really excited about that. Now, Robinson Crusoe itself, I can't quite remember why, but eventually we got rid of it. I think maybe it was just too tough going, or I think it was just dragging us down when we were trying to play it. We were just, it just felt hopeless, and there were other co-ops that we'd rather play, but really, really excited about giving, the same kind of gameplay another chance, because I really liked the fact that you could have these events happen to you, and based on your decision, they got put back in a deck, and you would re-encounter the thing that would be the result of your decision later on in that deck. I really, really like that about it. But yeah, first Martians, really excited about that. Number 8 is Lisboa from Vital Lacerda, and if you've heard me talk about any of his games in the past, I love, I think, everything that he's done. I've played Vinos, Kanban, The Gallerist, CO2, love them all, and surely another big heavy Euro from him is going to be a game for me. He does an amazing job of turning these seemingly really complex scenarios and situations into these really, really smooth, elegant, heavy Euro games where more and more as the game goes on, it seems, every action you take in that game links to so many other areas of the game and you can kind of see it in Kanban in the production line of the board. You can see how you're affecting every other part of it. The Gallerist in particular, where you're getting bonuses for all other aspects of the game, essentially. When you're taking a certain action, you can choose to have all of these other things fire off in an amazing combo. But yeah, I'm expecting more of that from Lisboa, and surely it's going to be a fantastic game. Surely. Number 7, quite appropriately, is The Seventh Continent. And this is a card-based game that's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure kind of thing. There's all of these numbered cards, and we'll start out with this starting map, and based on where we want to go or what we want to explore on this little part of the map, we will draw another card, and maybe it will replace the one we're on, maybe it will lead off from it, and we'll have all of these kind of trials and tests and things to see if we succeed at the various things that we try to do, and we're trying to survive and lift these curses that have been placed on us at the start of the game. It just looks fantastic. It's another game where the scope has expanded massively over the course of the Kickstarter, and as a result it's kind of been delayed. I think the Kickstarter was last October, it was meant to be delivered this October, and I think they're looking at around, is it April or May or something next year? But whenever it comes out, I'm sure that this is going to be an incredibly unique game, but I'm hoping that it's going to be a great one as well. And so far, everything that they've put out for it seems to be pointing towards a lot of effort going towards it, and a vast, vast number of cards. So really looking forward to digging into that. It's one of those games where it's going to take you so many sessions and so many hours to get through this game. And even then, you can probably go back to it and find things that you missed the first time or take different paths. Really, really looking forward to The Seventh Continent. Number 6 is Tribes, and this is designed by Rustin Hackinson, and he was one of the co-designers on Nations, which is one of my very favourite games. He was the designer of Nations the Dice game, which I really loved, and this is kind of a thematic prequel to Nations. Everything we're doing in Tribes takes place before Nations starts, so we're going through the Paleolithic, Neolithic and Bronze Ages, and I thought that was fantastic to begin with. And then I saw that the playing time is 20 to 30 minutes. So it's a really, really fast-paced game as well. And it's a 4X game with a twist where we have all got these separate areas. We're not trying to invade each other's things, I don't think. We are trying to, explore and exploit the area that we've got ourselves. And the interaction comes from technology trees, where we're trying to be the first to reach these different technologies. And also, there's an action column where the actions that aren't very popular are going to accrue money on them to make them more attractive. So that's where the kind of interaction is going to come into the game. But just for the fact that it's a designer of Nations and this really unique seeming, really fast-paced civilization game, really, really, really excited for Tribes. And that, I've just noticed at the bottom of this page, is going to be on Kickstarter in March. So that is Tribes. Number 5 is Millennium Blades Set Rotation, which I know technically shouldn't be in top 10 games, it's an expansion, but it's going to add a whole new dimension to Millennium Blades for me anyway. It's going to do what you might expect from an expansion. It's going to add a load of new card sets to the big store deck. It's going to add a load of new starter decks and characters, so you're going to have a lot of variability in how you start the game as well, along with new promos and things. But also, the most important thing for me, it's going to come with these cooperative decks, these huge bosses that we are going to be able to play Millennium Blades cooperatively and work together to try and defeat these bosses. I really, really love the idea of that. Millennium Blades was in my top 10 of 2016. I really love the game itself, but to be able to suddenly play it cooperatively, if that works, then that will be a huge change for me and will probably make the game get played, even more. It happened with Orleans, where I loved the game anyway. It didn't really need anything else, but adding suddenly when you realise that, there's a cooperative expansion for it, then it's a completely different feel when you're playing it. So I'm really, really looking forward to not just a ton more cards for Millennium Blades, but also to be able to play it cooperatively. That is Millennium Blades Set Rotation. And number 4 is Flatline. And I only found out about this a couple of days ago. I just happened to see a tweet from Renegade Games about this kind of, it's a sequel to Fuse, essentially, the dice game from technically 2015, where it's a 10-minute game where we are trying to defuse bombs on this spaceship as quickly as we can using dice and putting them on the cards. And if you saw my top 10, I kind of didn't count it as a 2016 game, even though it came out in 2016 in the UK. But it's my most played game of the year, absolutely. It came out in January, so it's had all of the year to be played. And it only takes 10 minutes, so that really helps. But it's ridiculously addictive, ridiculously fun co-op dice game. And a sequel to it that is a bigger game. The playtime of Fuse is 10 minutes plus, it's 10 minutes at the most. It's quicker if you manage to win before 10 minutes, and it's going to add a bit of setup time, but 10 minutes generally for Fuse. This is 25 to 45 minutes, so it's a bigger game, and it takes place in the story of Fuse as well. We managed to stop the spaceship being destroyed, but a lot of people still got hurt in all this chaos that went on. So now we are trying to treat all of these patients, and there's a 1-minute timer every round, and we need to deal with the different needs of the crew members, and other emergencies are going to happen in the ER, and it's, I imagine, going to be a similar feel to Fuse of just pure chaos the whole time that timer is running down. And if it's from the same designer, it's from Kane Klenko, the same as Fuse. If it's anything like Fuse, and being a sequel it should be, I'm going to love it just the same, and I really, really can't wait for Flatline. Number 3 is Founders of Gloomhaven, and this is a huge part in it is designer pedigree, but a strange kind of designer pedigree. It's from Isaac Childress, who designed Forge War, which I really, really love, and then designed Gloomhaven, which is about to come out, and that's it so far. This is his next game, and so you might think that's a bit strange of designer pedigree just based on one game really that I've played, although the excitement for Gloomhaven and things around it can't really be measured. This is not, though, a huge fantasy game like Gloomhaven. It's a much smaller game where it's a tile placement, worker placement game where we are actually building Gloomhaven. So before any of these quests or anything happen, we are as you might have guessed, the founders of Gloomhaven, I was about to say. So we are trying to build all of the parts of the city and influence the residents that are there. It involves some cooperation because we play as different races, and the different races can only produce certain things, so you'll need to work with the other races, the other players, to be able to make the better things. Also, there's going to be an auction at the start of each round where players will end up deciding the plans for the things that will be built that round. Really excited based on the theme and the designer, and everything else sounds good as well, but it's number 3 because of those two things, Founders of Gloomhaven. So now we come to number 2, and I actually don't know that much about this game. It's Charterstone from Stonemaler Games, and this is a legacy game. I'm not sure how much information is around in the forums and things, but I've not really done that much looking because it's similar to a lot of these games of how much do you want to know? How much do you want to be a surprise when you play this game? It's at this level purely because, in my limited experience with Legacy, mainly Pandemic Legacy, I'm sure I've played something else, but Pandemic Legacy just absolutely adore, although I couldn't bring myself to actually tear up the cards. Rachel did that or forced me to do that sometimes. But this doesn't have card tearing in it, by the way. But love the concept of legacy games in general. And Stonemaler, I can't really think of a time when it hasn't been a fantastic game. You know, Euphoria, which also has to suffer by being right behind me all the time, and there's Viticulture that's up there somewhere. There's Between Two Cities, Scythe. Am I forgetting something? I hope I'm not forgetting a big game there. But either way, I'm constantly impressed by Stonemaler games. Not only by the games, but it's another company where the presentation of all of the games is incredible. And so that'll have a big part to play in it. Also, it supports one player, and a lot of these games on the top 10 do, but Stonemaler has the Automa Factory. I hope it's called Factory now, and I haven't just made up a really weird term for it, but it's called the Automa Factory, where they make these really, really nice solo variants. You know, in Viticulture, it's which worker placement spots they're going to take, but in Between Two Cities, it was really nice where they had a communal... It's a game where we're all building... Usually you'll play with a lot of people, and you build a city between you and the person next to you, and it handled being on your own in a really, really interesting way. You know, there were 2 AI players and they built a city together, and inside as well there was this deck where it kind of handled this really complex set of instructions of how to simulate an AI player. It simulated that really well just in this little deck of cards, and not really that many rules on top of the base game. So really looking forward to what they're going to do with Charterstone as well. But maybe I should actually talk about what the game is, what I do know about the game. We are building, you know, these communities, and we'll be putting stickers on the board over the course of, I think it's 12 games you'll play, and the game will be evolving as you play it, as in legacy games. But one thing I do know about it is it's going to be playable at the end of those 12 games. You will have your unique board where you will be able to just keep playing off of that for, I don't know, until the end of time maybe, or until the board wears out at least. But I'm in that weird place of where I don't feel like I know that much about it, but I don't know how much I want to go exploring. I'm perfectly happy with it being this high in my excitement list, and you know, just getting it sight unseen and being really surprised by it. That is Charterstone. And so we come to number 1. The reason that this is the top 11, because I thought I'd give 10 other things a chance. And can we think about it? I'm not sure how much I've talked about this on the channel, whereas in my head it feels like that it's just going around all the time, so I'm always talking about it, but maybe I haven't in videos. Maybe I should say what it is, if you haven't guessed already. It's Gloomhaven. This, you know, it was... If I'd done a number 1, if I was doing the channel a year ago and I was doing a top 10 list, it would have been number 1 then as well. You know, if you don't know about it, it's this huge fantasy game where we are not only going on, you know, adventures through dungeons to complete scenarios and, you know, cooperate through playing cards, and there's dice-free combat where instead of dice we've got these little decks of +1, -1, double damage, 0 damage, but those decks evolve over time. You can make your decks better as you level up. You can make your ability decks better as you level up. Not only all of that stuff, but it's also got a legacy element in the town of Gloomhaven itself. The items that will be available there change as you do more things. The town gets more prosperous and more things are going to get unlocked. There are stickers that are put onto the map as you unlock all of the different parts of the story, different quests that you'll get sent on. There are achievements that you can unlock that can change the state of the game. You play as a character that has a life goal, and you know going in that you're not going to be playing this character the whole game. He is going to reach his life goal and retire, and that is going to unlock a brand new race for you to have a look at and play as instead. There are, I'm not sure of the exact numbers, there are plenty of new things in the box to unlock as you go through the game. There are envelopes to unlock, all sorts of beautiful, beautiful things. And I just couldn't be more excited. I don't think I saw it in person at Essen. It was all laid out on a table. I didn't get a chance to have a game of it because I saw the booking list for it. It was completely packed of people desperate to play Gloomhaven, and I don't blame them. But I did have a chance to just, you know, gawp at the beauty of all of the things laid out on this tiny table, the sheer number of things that are in this game. And that should be coming, I think in February it's coming now, somewhere around then. So if you didn't back it on Kickstarter, then it should be available at some point after that. But yeah, it just destroys everything else in terms of excitement. It's yeah, I just cannot wait for it. The sheer amount of content in it, not just from all of these minis and cards and things, but the scenarios as well. It's got this huge scenario book, I think 95 scenarios, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit there. Although with Gloomhaven, I don't think you could exaggerate it. If you haven't seen pictures and things about it, just take a look at some of the pictures on Board Game Geek of the box and the number of little boxes inside it, the number of unlockables. It's just, there are so many things that I'm excited about for this game, and I am just more and more excited as it gets closer and closer to the date. And that is my number one most anticipated game of 2017, Gloomhaven. Well, I hope you enjoyed going through my top 10. If there's any that you're really, really excited about that I've missed off, let me know. Also, these games come from a list. I should have mentioned this at the start, shouldn't I? These come from a list that I've started making of the games I'm excited about because I just lose track of the games completely. I've got a wish list that's kind of a bit of a mess. I've got, various notes on my phone of, keep an eye on these games. I finally, got it all sorted and in order. And then the day after I finished my list, I saw Rado does a fantastic, comprehensive version of this list. I went over to Rado's and saw that, I've missed off so many games from, just forgetting about them. I missed off Founders of Gloomhaven when I did this list. But yeah, I have got the list of games that I in particular am excited about. So you can head over there and see other games that didn't quite make the top 11. But if there's, some glaring oversight of some amazing game that's coming out that I haven't put on that list, let me know. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe I have just forgotten completely about it. But that's it for this top 11. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you for the next game. Bye, everyone.